when I line this up or put this up onto here, it sticks out way too far, 50 mil way too far. So I've got to cut this rear section out and sink this bumper back. These overriders here, that line there is from where I've looked online, and that is where the engine lid should finish. I'm going to cut this section out, leave that top strengthened part in, and sink the bumper into it. The downside of that is that at the minute that is nice and flat, and that is where the back part of the chassis sits against. So that's going to need reworking, but that's okay. It's part of the fun. So I'll crack on with that now. So there we go. Looking a bit drastic. Let's see how that bumper fits. Is going to be perfect. Well, after about 400 hours of work, it's going to be perfect. I've got to work out how to kind of tie all this in yet, and then tie that in with the rear of the chassis there, like I described. Another thing as well is, I don't know what is going on there, but like, really, look at that moulding. It's just dreadful. So the light goes up and the bumper comes down, so I've got to kind of fiberglass that somehow. I found the best way of measuring that sort of stuff is with a banana. Yeah, perfect. So that's the cap on the right hand side of the rear bumper. That's going to need a little bit of thinking about how I'm going to bolt those two panels together, or screw those two panels together. And yeah, a little bit of a gap there. So interesting times ahead. Slightly slow going at the minute while I collate lots of information on this flange episode and what to do about it. Now that is so wonky and wobbly, you probably can't see it from this angle, but it really dips in here and then dips in again there. Now to mount a bumper to that is just horrible. After getting some advice from my friend, he has suggested that I cut out the offending flange and fiberglass in a new one, a bigger one that makes it easier to mount that's going to make it easier to mount the bumper to. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I was thinking I was going to be lazy and just fiberglass the whole rear bumper into this gap, but if somebody wants to remove the engine at a later date, that's going to make it very difficult. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it all properly. I'm now YouTube gorging, watching fiberglass techniques, etc. So this is where I've been doing all my template cutting out, shaping on the bandsaw, etc. Yeah, so kind of learning about fiberglassing at the minute. I've kind of made these formers. Is that what they're called? Formers? Pattern parts anyway. I'll show you what I'm doing. I've got them fitting really nicely, got some kind of plasticine or modelling clay or whatever it is, and kind of pushed it in there. Not modelling clay, you know, wax clay, and pushed it in there, got the radiuses quite nice. I've covered that in masking tape, and then I'm going to wax that area so that it's kind of a release agent for the polyester resin when I come to peel it off. So just made up a cardboard template there that fits up into that position, and that means that I can lay that onto the fiberglass matting and cut to size. If you notice here, I need a lip to wrap up into this section of the light housing, so hence the little extended bit, so that's going to flip up around the corner there. Hopefully you can hear me over the fan. Right, I'm laying up two lots of 300 gram matting. First of all, I'm going to soak them out and lay them up on the car. Let's give it a go. Well, that fiberglass matting you saw me carry through, that's where that ended up. I forgot that the resin breaks down the fiberglass strands. So by the time I got it in here, it had all kind of fallen apart. So I wasn't able to manhandle it into position. What I did, the second sheet that you saw me bring through, I was able to kind of stick up into position and then stipple it with the brush and wrap that round. Focus, thank you, focus. Wrap that round and get it into some sort of position. From the inside. That's what I'll do. So there's my second layer. As you saw me rollering it to get the air bubbles out. So that side's all glassed up. Looks pretty rough at the minute, but once it's trimmed down, I think it'll look okay. This side, I've just trimmed down the top across here. And I'm pretty happy with that, really. I think it's tied in with the existing flange quite nicely because I did a tapered edge on that. It's pretty straight. So this is quite encouraging. It's kind of hardened off now. Just removing this former. And I'm left with a really nice little lip. Not about really nice, but it's something to work with. So I'm going to build up the other layers on the inside here, or on the top. At least that way I'm not fighting gravity. And I can get some filler material right into the corners there as well, to give it some strength. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. My first attempt ever at fiberglassing. So now I'm going to lay up 2 more layers of 450 grams of CSM to give this some strength. Now I'm going to lay them over the existing 2 layers of 300 grams. Rock solid as well. Okay, so that's hardened up nicely overnight. I've used one of my previous formers as a kind of a template to mark around. And I'm going to have this flange here slightly wider, because there's a little bit of space then to bolt the bumper up under the light fitting. So yeah, let's cut that next, both sides, and it's really taking shape now, nice and thick. What's going on? I see you. bit of an update with the rear bumper. I've cut this leg of the bumper off. It was so twisted on 4 different planes. I mean, it was drooping down here, it was twisted down there, all kinds of things. So I've cut that off just because it's easier. So I'm working on that at the minute to straighten that up separately. Yeah, so this soft modelling dough for schools is what model makers use and people who use fiberglass, apparently. So there was a gap between that top section there and the bumper. So I've just filled along there with that modelling dough. Same with this side. Filled along there as well. Let me get a light. And oh, that's really useful. That's better. Just taking up that gap for now. And what I'm going to do, lay a bit of fiberglass along here and back up here, and that all the way along, and that should give me a really nice lip to mount that bumper on, and it will also stiffen up that rear panel there as well, because I've taken some strength out of that by cutting that other section out. So yeah, I'm not going to record this bit because it's quite stressful laying fiberglass and getting the camera set up. So I'll show you the after results when I've finished. So that has gone far better than I expected, actually. I'm getting a bit more used to the old fiberglassing routine now and just calming down a bit. I don't put as much catalyst in it now, so I've got a little bit more working time with it. It was all a bit frantic and in a bit of a rush before. So yeah, that lip's going to work really well. So when that's cured, I can cut along that line, and I'll have a nice mounting point for the top of the bumper then. So yeah, pleased with that. It's the next day and everything's cured nicely. That has come out really well. So I've got a nice flat plane there now to work with to mount that top section of the bumper. I'm going to fill this centre section now with some body filler. So just done a layer of P40 filler up in that ridge that I showed you earlier. So I've got to trim along there, obviously, and then I'm going to layer another layer of fiberglass matting on the bottom there, 450 grams, and then I'm going to lay another layer of matting on the inside edge there, all the way along, just to give it some more strength. I'm going to do some little end pieces for here, and that will give it extra rigidity. It's all go since I spoke to you last. So I've got a layer of 450 gram chop strand matting along there, and I've done another one in the back there as well. So yeah, really get some thickness to that panel now. So now I've got to trim the excess off here all the way along, and trim along the front as well. So just got the bumper back in position. I've drawn a line along that flange that I fiberglassed or made up. Gonna cut that now with an angle grinder. Not sure it's the best tool to use, but that's what I'm going to use anyway. I can't believe how many tools I got out. Ridiculous. So just put the bumper back up there, trim the back of that as you saw me do, back of that flange, and I've just drilled some mounting holes along there. So this is what I've done at the back here, both sides. I wanted to kind of box this section in a little bit more. Give it a little bit of strength. So I've got some fiberglass matting in there. Got my PVC plastic as a bit of a former or a template. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, so that will sort of box that section up now and kind of give it a bit more rigidity at the back here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, eh? The flanges are almost finished. They need a little bit more prep work, but they're pretty, I mean, obviously that one's really bad at the minute. So I'm just going to do some final fillering on that. The flange on the inside is looking really nice. Pleased with that. So let me show you where we are with the bumper. Fiberglassed this part of the bumper back into place. A little bit too thick there, I think, but it's nice and strong. So that's all good. I've done some resin along here and built up. It's almost 10 mil there at that section. So I'm just flattening that area from there to there, so get that nice and straight. And I've done the same there. You can see some resin just to build up that droop that way. So yeah, I'm going to add some filler there now. I'm going to keep working this, and I think we're getting there on the bumper. So after a few hours of rubbing, filling, we're sort of getting somewhere now. That's looking nice and straight. Probably a little bit flickery under these lights, but that's the way it goes. Yeah, so as I always say, pretty pleased with that. One last thing to do is to mark some mounting holes onto that flange. So just popped a bit of primer into this cup lid even, on the end of a 5mm drill bit. So we can then mark the mounting holes ready for drilling. Yep. So they're all marked. So let's get this bumper off and drill some mounting holes. So I think I'm going to wrap this episode up here. I've got all 13 mounting bolts. 13. I mean, do I really need 13 mounting bolts for a fiberglass bumper? Probably not. I haven't got the right bolts in there yet. I'm going to get some stainless steel ones. But yeah, there we go. Really happy with that. That's taken a lot of time. That's probably taken me 3 weeks, I think, to do all that. And I still haven't quite finished the bumper off, but that's looking really nice. I can mount some number plate lights up there. Let's focus out a bit, zoom out a bit. Yeah, so number plate lights will be going up here, and then I'll be I'll be painting this section here in body colour. It made far more sense to do this bumper while the body was off the chassis, because it would have been very difficult if I'd have just slapped the body on and tried to do it after. So there we go. That is looking fantastic compared to what it did look like, which was the banana, if you remember correctly. I've still got a bit of finishing work to do there and underneath, but yeah, there we go. I'll wrap this one up.